Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning, afternoon and night to my beloved teacher and friends. My name is Nuha binti Muhammad Rushdan, and I am currently standing here to present to all of you about our recent group project, Task 2, Project 01, which is Between the Planes. What is a plane? A plane is a two-dimensional surface which is defined by width and length. For example, in a room we have 4 planes, which is the base, or we call it as floor, base plane, the wall plane, which are the walls, and the overhead plane, which is the ceiling. This project solely focuses on planes, how we want to express our work by using the planes. Before diving into the actual presentation, let me guide you through the project brief. Project brief is a short description of a key element of your project. Understanding the project brief is very crucial for architecture students to fully grasp and achieve the main goal of the project assigned to us. Not only that, by going through the project brief, it also helps our group members to know the requirements needed and what we should focus on. The aim of the project is to identify the meaning of sense of scale, proportion, and connection of a form between one plane to another. We are given a list of famous architects to choose from to understand their architectural principle and style, and translate our understanding into the form of a hanging sculpture. We also need to highlight the connection of the sculpture between the planes, be it from the wall to the wall, or to the ceiling, etc. The list of architects consists of Zaha Hadid, Antoni Gaudi, Tando Ando, Marina Tabassum, Laila Aragian. Our group members discussed which architect caught our interest the most, and finally we chose someone who is not from the list, as we thought that he has the best and the most unique architecture style and suits to our liking, which is Daniel Libeskind. The requirements of the project include using light recycled materials such as plastic bottles or paper cups to make the sculpture. The sculpture should be within only 2 planes with the maximum distance of 1,500 millimeters and the volume of 1.5 meter by 1.2 meter by 1.5 meter. As you can see here, we choose to put up our sculpture between the wall and the ceiling. That's all for the project brief, and without further ado, let's dive into my actual presentation, which is about the hanging sculpture that we created based on our understanding of the famous architect Daniel Libeskind. First and foremost, let me introduce to you about the famous architect, which is Daniel Libeskind. He was born on 12th of May 1946. His philosophy is that he believes that the buildings that are built is perceptible with human energy, which is like by showing emotions through buildings. His works are often described as deconstructivist, which means the movement of postmodern architecture during the 1980s. During the 1980s, not many architects have the courage to build outstanding buildings like Libeskind did. So he is considered as a deconstructivist because of his works, his buildings that he built, which he wanted to show human emotions through his buildings. He wanted his work to be one of a kind and obvious. By obvious, I mean in a land of different buildings, he wanted his building to be wow, so extravagant. Now, let's proceed to the Naqli study. The Quranic verse that we chose for our project is from Surah Al-Hashr, ayat 10, which sounds like this. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم صدق الله العظيم. Our Lord, forgive us and our fellow believers who preceded us in faith, and do not allow bitterness into our hearts towards those who believe. Our Lord, indeed you are ever gracious, most merciful. This Quranic verse is actually a prayer recited by the tribes Muhajirin and Ansar, which are two contradictory tribes with different personalities. Despite that, they recite the same prayers which showcase harmony, which now relates to our concept, which is juxtaposition. Juxtaposition means the fact that two things are placed close to each other with contrasting effect. Our precedent study is one of his famous buildings, which is the Royal Ontario Museum. It is located in Toronto, Canada, and it is the largest museum in Canada, as it has 60,000 items and 40 galleries. It is a museum of art, world culture, and natural history. The museum is built in April 1912. A bit of backstory. The museum is originally called as the Royal Ontario Museum, but in May 2003, Libeskind upgraded this building and named it as Michael Lee-Chin Crystal. Why, you ask, and who is Michael Lee-Chin? Michael Lee-Chin is a Jamaican-Canadian billionaire businessman. He donated $30 million to the building as an appreciation gift. So, the building got its name, Crystal, because it is composed of 5 interlocking, self-supporting prismatic structures that coexist but are not attached to the main building, which is the Royal Ontario Museum. But it is the two buildings are connected and linked with a bridge. So the sculpture that we created is based on the Royal Ontario Museum, and it's inspired by the crystalline forms that I mentioned earlier in the Royal Ontario Museum Mineralogy Galleries. Now let's talk about the design of our sculpture. As you can see, there are two very different forms which are contrasting with each other. Hence why we chose the concept juxtaposition. The reasons behind our design is because Libeskind has studied music and architecture. So back in the old days, he initially studied music to express his emotions, but he doesn't find that quite effective, so he proceeded to learn architecture, and he found out that he can express his emotions more through architecture and through buildings. Hence why he believes that buildings are connected with human energy. Although music and architecture are two contrasting mediums, he can always express his emotions through both of them. So this part, the part where we put, where we connected CDs, symbolizes his passion for music, his love for music. Meanwhile, the metallic colored structure that we linked through the CDs symbolizes his architecture style. Here you can see the design process of our sculpture. We improvised a lot through the comments of lecturers and our friends. So yeah, and finally developed a final design. The final design, just like this. So the main materials that we use are recycled items, which are CDs, corrugated boards, and we used wall hooks to connect the strings from the wall to the ceiling. Here are the drawings of the plan, front elevation and rear elevation. The dimensions are 1,300 millimeters by 1,100 millimeters. So that is all for the board presentation. Now, the conclusion that I can make out of this group project is that we as architects will face different and diverse clients. So we need to really understand their different preferences and their wants and needs, so that we can realize their dream house with the design that we made, we created, we invented. My experience throughout this project is that my group members all of my group members have different ideas, and we combined all of our ideas together, and then we improvised and deliver our design, which portrays the architecture style of Daniel Libeskind. That is all from me, and thank you so much for listening and for lending me your time, and hope you have a nice day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.